Memory transcription subject, Governor Tava of the Vendel Republic. Date, standardized human time, September 28th, 2136. Armed Kolshians steered us into the docking area where we landed upon our arrival. Our previous shuttle was outfitted with supplies, since the chief granted us permission to return home on a pre-arranged route. The soldiers fell back several steps and monitored the human for any threatening moves. One of them called their lip at me, briefly. Noah settled down on an empty crate, clutching a knapsack that contained his meager belongings. He met the soldier's gaze without blinking. Staring was a contest of dominance, whether that was the intention or not. The Kolshians gripped their rifles tighter and slunk back toward the entryway. "You'll gawk that all the time, Noah," I whispered. Not saying it's right, but I don't suggest that smouldering stare down as a response. It'll tickle their instincts in ways you don't want.
I don't care how they look at me, but they're not going to look at you with disgust and hatred. If they want a problem, they can pick on someone their own size.
He growled, loud enough for the guards to hear. Aggression and protectiveness were not the persona to exhibit on the verge of our first diplomatic encounter. The Federation representatives would see it as a predator cowing his observers. I appreciated his loyalty, but humans were a little too defensive of their friends at times. Those soldiers were entitled to their opinions. Thank you, but it's fine. A lot of people think I'm a disgrace to the Federation and aren't happy that I imprisoned their people. I studied the guards' expressions, noticing how their scowls deepened at my words. Nikonus didn't even discuss consequences for the Venlil.
So you agree with them? You had noble reasons for what you did. They can't find fault with that.
Well, I've single-handedly fractured the Federation beyond repair, and I guess that makes me a traitor to most folks.
You're a heed to all of humankind, Tava. 12 species in the galaxy who would even try to befriend us. We met what might be the only one who would try, before there was a shred of proof to our claims. Don't think we'll forget what the Venlil have risked.
I pressed a claw to my lips and flicked my ears toward the doorway. The soldiers had snapped to attention, breaking their deadlock with the irate predator. That could only mean someone was approaching. The human needed to make a good first impression. Flattering us at the expense of the rest of the galaxy wasn't going to win hearts and minds. A violet-skinned Kolshian padded into the hangar bay, clearly resisting the urge to grab his sidearm. His steps faltered once he was within pouncing distance of Noah, like a magnetic force was repelling him from the human. The familiar officer crept to my side, using me as a living shield. How is he still at grasp, but Noah doesn't have a violent bone in his body? Didn't our journey here prove that much? The Terran ambassador grinned.
Roussel, I was worried you were rotting in a cell.
The Kolshian rubbed his forehead.
I was until the Commonwealth finalized our decision on humanity. Chief Nikonus agreed that I had a moral imperative to intervene and pardon me on all counts. I did receive a disciplinary mark for my methods, though.
What do you mean?
Noah asked.
While Nikonus agrees with my rationale, we can't have officers running around shooting their captains. I don't think I had time to go through proper channels. But whatever.
I see. So you're free. Why did you come here of all places?
Nikonus offered me an appointment as military liaison to Earth, and I accepted.
My eyes widened, as did the ambassador's dilated ones. I thought the Roussel hated being around predators. By his own admission, living around humans was a nightmare for him, and he couldn't fathom prolonged exposure to them. Noah stroked his chin in confusion.
You want to be around predator generals and talk about war tactics? Don't you hate the thought of having one of us within 100 miles?
Forgive me if I've caused offense, Noah. Seeing your chemistry with Tava, I think we could be great friends.
The Kolshian shuddered as he tried to meet the predator's gaze.
Others seem to adapt quicker and easier than me, but I don't want to give up. Truly.
Do you think he can work past your fear? I asked gently. Have you identified what triggers such a severe reaction?
I enlisted on a starship when I was 9. I don't recall another way to feel toward predators. It may take an unreasonably long time for me to work past those behaviors, and it would take considerable coaxing from you all. I can't imagine what this is like from Noah's perspective. I'm not sure I'd have the patience. If you'd like a different liaison, I understand.
Sympathy flashed in Noah's eyes.
Roussel, we are willing to help you every step of the way. I just don't know why you want to endure those feelings. It seems unfair to you.
Humanity made me realize we are stronger than the sum of our fears, that there is something other than being afraid. I haven't got there yet, but I'm grateful for that. Can you accept my apology?
There's nothing to forgive. Your emotions are out of your control.
The edge dissipated from the human's sonorous voice, replaced by a warm tone.
We'll figure this out together, no matter how long it takes.
Great. Now, there's other diplomats coming, so I'm going to make some preparations.
Roussel skidded off to the farthest corner of the hangar bay and began preparing a second shuffle. That was a smart idea, since it was unlikely the entire crowd would fit in a single vessel. Hell, I doubted some of them would want to ride in a tiny box with a human for days. The first officer was probably thrilled to charter his own ship for that exact reason. I watched the Kolshian shoot furtive glances towards us and pondered why his species hadn't agreed to full diplomatic relations. Chief Nicholas didn't appear hostile to humanity and displayed more fairness than I anticipated. The prospect of harm befalling Noah seemed to offend him even. When my expectations were little more than a partial hearing, a genuine debate was astounding. I guess Nicholas didn't propose a full partnership because he doesn't believe humans can reciprocate their cordiality in a meaningful way. Nonetheless, I felt Kolshian Commonwealth might come around as an ally. They had already seized the initiative by sending a military liaison. Even those guards were angered by my lack of accountability rather than Noah's presence. Maybe it was just too large of a leap for most governments to make at once. Our Aurelian ambassador Chosen skittered into the room. Something seemed to have been bashed against his head and green blood trailed down his snout. The furry scientist looked unsteady on his feet, but it was a good sign that he wasn't shy of Noah and his wounded stirred. It violated every prey instinct to wander up to a predator like this. Noah squinted with concern.
Are you all right, Jocelyn? Please, let me have a look at that.
What happened? I gasped. The Aurelian sighed.
A bunch of people rushed to leave the chamber when the fighting broke out. Someone clubbed me over the noggin. I didn't see who. Probably because I testified with a generous view on humanity. The pundits think I've spared some hostile votes to undecided.
All that for sharing a hypnosis on human morality.
Noah said.
I'm sorry. I never wanted you to be assaulted.
It's fine.
The scientist licked a foreleg absent-mindedly, smoothing out the brown fur.
I look tougher now when I force you to take me to your planet.
Even Tava won't go to Earth.
Why not? You haven't invited her.
It's complicated, but Elias Meyer, our leader, extended the invitation. Had a herbivorous banquet, live music and the tour of New York City in the works. Tava refused.
I swished my tail with indignation. It's a different story after the experiments, Noah. You think I was going to wander into a city with 10 million predator residents less than a month after we met? Before anyone ever saw how he behaved in packs? Noah opened his mouth to respond, but stacked it shut as he saw Chief Nicholas leading a group of diplomats toward our ship. These must be the species that constituted the affirmative votes for open relations with Earth. None of them had been brave enough to make introductions yet. Our Aurelian friend was the sole exception. It didn't surprise me to see the superkits of the Paladins in the mix. Their centrally located territories were far enough away that they thought they could keep humanity at arm's length and control or minimize the interactions. Even predators wouldn't start that off the beaten path to gain a foothold. Those neighboring species were easy to invade first. Then there were the Yoto, the latest uplifts. Adapting to the galactic arena was difficult for a species that just discovered steam power. I couldn't imagine how the Venlil would have processed the Federation's vast knowledge in our infancy. Of course, if the Yoto's industrialism tipped us off to their presence, the Arxa might find them too. It was the lesser evil to flood them with information and give them a fighting chance. 22 cycles after first contact, the marsupials tired of the derision from their counterparts. Most species dismissed them as primitive, with a poor scientific understanding and little to offer as allies. The Federation military saw the Yotol as a liability and wouldn't take their suggestions seriously. Gaining the backing of predators was a calculated risk to coerce some respect from their peers. So far, no surprises. The Felki seek protection since there's only about 12,000 members of their species left alive. Well, not in captivity. The Levox and Fishans are training juggernauts that don't want to go the way of the Gajids. I squinted in apparent confusion. Was that the Mazik president among their ranks? Perhaps this was not the assemblage of friendly species after all. It wasn't even a personal representative or Eid. He was the only official dignitary I observed in the group. Noah tensed as he also spotted the beige-skinned mammal. I doubted my friend had forgotten who interrupted him at every turn. Cooper was rather outspoken against humanity, mocking the Terran ambassador for his eyes and criticizing simple arguments.
He's the alien with the trump just here to make trouble. That Mazik, you said.
The human whispered, echoing my thought.
Them and the Krakoffel were the ones who couldn't stand my presence.
Cooper fished his trunk.
Your closing argument about the hypothetical of friendship was profound. We are in fact desperate enough that there is nothing to lose. Am I not welcome here?
I didn't mean for you to overhear that comment, Mazik. My apologies. If you desire diplomacy, I would not turn you away.
Noah lowered his voice to its minimum, then pursed his lips in mistrust.
Damn, Tava, those massive ears must be sharp.
I snorted. No, your ears are just bad. The human sighed.
That's hardly the worst thing you've said about it.
I studied the waiting crowd. While the injured Nikovas bore no intention of making the journey to Venlil space, he opted to send us off himself. There was more sharpness in his gaze than fear. He wasn't shaking or whining the way Rizal did. Though I appreciated the officer's efforts, perhaps there were better candidates to represent the Kolshians. As for the newcomers, the Zerulean was pantsing around the human in circles. Jovson couldn't contain his excitement. He was the only ally eager to get up close and personal with the flesh-eater. Meanwhile, the Civ-kick diplomat looked like she was about to pass out, standing across from a predator. Logical talk of borders and distance didn't mean much when she was going to be tracked in its lair. The Mazik president had the same suspicion in his eyes from the pivotal meeting. I don't think he trusted Noah Thewina not to shift the second we took flight. There was a Dossur representative present, I realized, but the tiny rodent was hiding behind Kupo's bulky form. That size differential could only make the lumbering predator more daunting. That makes my count 10 species, plus the Kolshians. Maybe the last one is running late for some reason. Their representative might have had a panic attack.
You're going to take the atoll? I thought the humans already invented the wheel.
The Navok representative sneered. A few chuckles came from the gathering, and even the Kolshian chief struggled to maintain a neutral expression. The Ortol glowered at his critic and fired a nervous glance toward the human. I suppose the general assumption was that predators would shun any species with weaker technology. It was tough to imagine that friendship was their end rather than the means. If anything, I think supposed weakness roused the Terran's protectiveness. Noah and Sarah were most partial to us in our moments of vulnerability. Judging by how my friend's lips curved down, he wasn't pleased with the Nivok's humiliation of their peer.
We have plenty to offer, Tosser.
The marsupial snapped.
Maybe these predators will be less stupid than you, and see that.
Tosser flicked her ears.
Like what? Name one thing that makes you valuable, especially compared to the rest of us.
For one thing, we're the only ones here who weren't around for that vote. You know, the one where you unanimously decided to wipe out all life on Earth. Even the Ventlil have that baggage.
Silence fell over the assemblage. Trepidation played at the representatives' expressions as the fiery Yortol reminded them of their prior decisions. Perhaps I could afford to issue a formal apology or not matter myself, though it hadn't been my government that arrived at that conclusion. It must be tough for the predators to forget our role in their planned extinction.
Humanity welcomes all parties of all backgrounds.
The ambassador cleared his throat, irritation flashing in his eyes.
There's no need for divisive rhetoric or to prove yourselves by putting others down. We're a small group. We need to band together.
He's right. There's too much at stake here. Quit acting like children, I growled.
Gosh. On that unpleasant note, I must warn you that siding with us may put you at odds with your friends and neighbors. This is your last chance to turn back.
Noah blinked in surprise as every party lingered. That was a risk they already considered, leaving the Aprewonias confident.
All right then. Let's board a shuttle and get this show underway.
The UN would be delighted to receive a proper diplomatic envoy, but I knew I had to temper their expectations. There would be missteps along the way, and few species would act as casual as us. It took a long time to be comfortable around predators. Familiarity was the final phase of the adjustment period, which certain prey sapiens might never achieve. At least now, humanity knew where they stood with the Federation.